speaking of the season a little bit, let's go to the game by game. So I did write about this, which if you are watching, listening, whichever, don't forget to check out musketfire.com. Got a bunch of stuff about the schedule, and I'm probably a little bit more optimistic than most people. I think I had them at like, oh my gosh, I think I either went 11-6 or 9-7, somewhere between there.
Sarah,
I know, but I think that it's like, so I am overly optimistic, but I also feel like they're going to be better than they were last year. I know a lot of people think that they're not, but I would like to believe they're going to win more than 4 games. You can't convince me that they're going to win 4 or less. I'm just not.
I think I'm telling you right now. I haven't done this. And I keep cutting you off, and I apologize. But
That's okay.
I have not done this with either on my show with my co-host Steve Balsherry. I haven't done this by myself. So we are going to go through the whole season schedule together for the first time. But I'm telling you right now, they're probably going to win 7 or 8 games.
That's fine with me.
But I think 11 is ridiculous.
I know. I'm sorry. I don't even know how I got there. Like, I was at 9-7, and then I was re-looking at my list, and I counted it, and I was like, wait, how did I give them 2 more games? And I was like, you know what? I don't care. At this point, whatever. It's on brand. I'm just gonna keep it at 11-6, and I had people mad, but it is what it is. So we have week 1 at the Bengals. I feel like it's pretty easy. This is a loss.
So I'm going to surprise you here. After all that I said, I actually think that I think it will be a loss, and I'll count it as a loss, but I think this is actually a sneaky win for the Patriots, and I'll tell you why on 2 fronts.
Okay.
I think for one, because Joey Burr won't have played for over a year at this point. And we'll see what kind of rust he has. He might come out just like gunslinging, they're whatever. But they lost Joe Mixon, they lost Tyler Boyd, and then Joey was hurt all last year. The Patriots, people don't really know how to game plan for them. Just as we are going in for the draft, it's similar to going to the season. We think Gerard Mayo and DeMarcus Covington are going to have a very similar defense, but we don't know what changes they're going to make. I think they're going to be a slightly more aggressive. I think they're going to go a little bit more into a 4 or 5 man front, and we can probably get to that at a different time or next time I'm on. But I think that the defense, you don't quite know what it's going to be. The offense, you really don't have any idea what it's going to be. And then you have someone on the other team who lost some major pieces on offense and who are coming off injury. So I think the Patriots have a really good chance of winning these first 2 games. Even though I'm not super optimistic about the rest of the year. I do think the Bengals are going to win this game. I would count the Bengals as a win on, we're recording this May 24th, but I do think this is a sneaky upset candidate early, if I'm being honest.
I see what you're saying, and I kind of have felt that way too, because I think the first month is kind of a crapshoot. No one is playing their best football. Everyone is kind of just trying to get settled, trying to figure their own team out and trying to figure out other teams. And so teams can take advantage of that. They can take advantage of being more gelled than their opponents, and they can sneak it out. So I could see that happening. It's the first game, especially. That would be one heck of a way to start the season if they got one against the perennial AFC favorite, outside of the Chiefs anyway.
So I'll count week 1 as a loss.
Okay, I got that down. So
week 2. I am telling you, that is my sneaky upset, my hot season mid take.
I hope you're right, because that would be awesome. So we have week 2 versus the Seahawks. I put this down as a win because I think the Seahawks are in a weird position as well. They're going to have a new head coach. We're not really sure what they're doing at quarterback. Obviously, they have solid receivers and, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Tyler Lockett, who's Mr. Reliable. I mean, is he still there? Well, he's still there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Kenneth Walker is great when he's healthy. But again, we don't know what they're going to look like either. So it's their first home game. I think they're going to be extra excited. And I think this could be, as you said, a game that they could easily sneak out the win.
So if they don't win week 1, I think they're going to win week 2. So to be fair, I think they're going to win this game. If I'm going to say the loss for the Bengals, I'll say a win against the Seahawks.
Okay.
There are challenges. I do agree with everything that you said. You're going to have some good skill position players. You're going to have a good running back. The quarterback position for them is really interesting. McDonald, the head coach, coming from Baltimore, he likes to be really, really, really multiple. So I'll be curious to see what that looks like. But I'll say win. If I said lost the first game, I'll say win this game. I think that they'll split one of these first 2 games.
Yeah. Agreed. And then we got their first divisional game, week 3 at New York Jets. Also their only primetime game, Thursday night.
As of now.
Yes, yep. As of now. I have this as a loss simply because it's at New York. We're supposed to believe that Aaron Rodgers is a god. So if that's the case, then he'll play like one at home.
He'll tell you.
Yeah. He sure will, in a lot of more words, I'm sure. But yeah, I think that the division is not the division of old, and unfortunately for the Patriots, they've all gotten better while they've gotten worse. So I see the Jets playing hard, especially with Rodgers back in the lineup.
As long as Rodgers stays healthy, they're going to be at least on the verge of the playoffs. I mean, there's just no way about it. No 2 ways about it. They have a pretty good offensive line. They have a good running game, good weapons, really good defense. I'm not sure I'm super confident in Robert Saleh, aside from the defensive side. But I do think he has a relatively good head on his shoulders. I think it will be a loss. I think it's going to be a really, really tough team. They'll probably end up splitting with the Jets, but I think that the first one's going to be a tough one, and they are really, really stacked top to bottom. They've done a great job in the draft, and we'll see if they can put it all together this year.
Don't they have like 3 or 4 running backs too? They drafted was it them that drafted Braylon Allen and Isaiah
Allen, who I loved coming out of Wisconsin. I think he's a great compliment to Breece Hall. I think the 2 of them are just going to run like the wind. Garrett Wilson's done a good job of doing what he can do. Just like they literally have just done a really good job building that roster. I think, honestly, their biggest question marks in my mind are their head coach and their quarterback. Because I think their quarterback is a total, as talented as Aaron Rodgers is, there's a reason he's only won once. Okay? Yeah. I mean, he's one of the most talented quarterbacks that we've seen probably since John Elway. And I mean, like from a physical standpoint, he's just as impressive as like a Tom Brady. But like he doesn't have that mentality. But like I think I'm not blaming last year on him. That was just bad luck, and honestly, it kind of sucked to see because I just don't like rooting for guys to get injured. Even though I'm not a fan of him, I don't want him to be hurt. That's not fair. That's BS. So I'm kind of curious to see how that all comes together, and maybe it won't because I was just talking to my buddy who's a huge Packers fan, and we were joking about how the Bears have done a good job, but they're the Bears, so they'll screw it up. They're the Jets. They'll probably screw it up.
The Jets will jet.
They'll probably do that. But at the same time, I am curious to see if they can put it together this year.
I am too, and I'll move on in a second, but I'm curious because they're a team that seems to have given Rodgers a lot more say in their roster moves and free agency because they've brought in a bunch of his friends. So, that is something that he kind of did not like with the Green Bay. So it's like, it'll be interesting to see if everything that he was helping to bring to the Jets actually pays off because it's what he wanted and they did what he wanted. So it'll be a
lot of teams do that. And I can tell you with, pretty good certainty that, Drake May wanted Jalen Polk, for example. That was a player that he really, really liked. So it's not too out of the ordinary, to do that. I just think, I don't know. Aaron's a different kind of animal. It's a little different. But I just wanted to bring a little bit of balance to it because I am with you 100%. But at the same time, I'm just like, okay, well, a lot of quarterbacks want to bring in their own receivers, and that's what they want to do. So,
yeah. Week 4, I think this is obvious at the 49ers. I mean,
yeah, it's going to be brutal. The first 4 schedule. I mean, the first 7 really. I mean, you're talking about Joe Burrow, All of a sudden, you can skip the Seahawks, but you got Aaron Rodgers. I know it's Brock Purdy, but you still have a really stacked lineup. You got Tua, you got CJ Stroud. I mean, you are really just walking through it. You're walking through the coals at the beginning. But yeah, it's a loss, in my mind. So right now we're at 1-3. I just think the 49ers are so loaded. We'll see if they can get over the hump. I'm not sure if they can. But right now on paper, I mean, man, they're one of the best teams. Even though the AFC is probably 3 times more loaded than the NFC, the 49ers are still one of the best 3 or 4 teams in the league. I mean, they're really talented.
They are. Week 5 is versus the Dolphins. I think I had this down as a win. I think I have them splitting all of the AFC. I don't think anyone is going to, AFC East. I don't think I had any of the teams sweeping the Patriots.
In my mind, they'll probably win 2 out of the 6 games they play.
Okay.
Maybe not 3. We'll see. I think that they have a good chance of beating Miami at home. I would feel better if it was later in the year because Miami, the best way I've heard Miami classified was from Chris Long, who has a really good podcast called the Greenlight Podcast, and he compared the Dolphins to an F1 race car, and basically was like, if the track is clean, they can just basically beat you out with speed, and they can. And you've seen that. You're playing October 6th, so it's not super cold. I would like that game a little bit later. Maybe there's some weather involved. You could muck it up a little bit. We'll see. It'll be really hard to kind of beat them. I have that as a loss as well.
Okay, so that's where we differ for the first time.
Yep.
Week 6 versus the Texans. I have it as a loss. I think that the Texans are they were really good last year. They're going to be only better this year. It's great that they're coming to Foxborough, but I just don't know how, as much as I love the Patriots defense, I'm just a little concerned about how they would be able to shut down that explosive offense.
So I actually have this as a win. I think the Texans are going to be a good team. I do think the expectations for them are getting a little lofty. I do think the CJ Stroud hype is real, and there's a lot of good things to go about it, D'Amico Ryans, etc. But I do think that maybe they had a little wind in their sails, and I wouldn't be surprised if they took a slight step back. They could still get to the playoffs and have some success. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I could see a slight step back because I feel like some of the expectations might be overstepping what they actually did last year. I do think people have to realize that it was still just freshly coming out of a rebuild, and they surprised people last year. So I don't think it's that stupid to say that this year it might be a little bit slower out of the gate than some people are expecting.
And they play in a dome, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that could play to the Patriots' favor too, because that is in mid-October in the cold. Week 7 is the game in London against the Jags. I think I have them as a win. I think playing London. Go ahead.
Can I ask you? Can I ask you? Do you have any interest in ever going to see a game there?
It's so funny. So I was thinking about going to the Jets game week 8 because it's at Foxborough. And it's 3 days before my birthday. So because the Jags game is the week before, people were like, why don't you go to London for your birthday? And you can go see the game. And I'm like, I would love to if it wasn't going to cost me an arm and a leg. So it would be really fun. Yeah. I think it's such a different dynamic because it is such a unique blend of fans because, they don't have American football in England. So I think it would be a really cool experience.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be really fun. I would like to go.
Yeah.
So you say win or loss? I'm sorry.
I say win because I think that since they're, the Jags are kind of becoming London's team, but it is it's a melting pot of fans. The people that are going to be at this game are not Jags fans necessarily or whoever else, they're playing. It's going to be, we're NFL fans. This is one of the games we get to see in London this year. We're going to go. And I don't know. The Jags lost a lot of people and I'm not overly, excited with the people that they added. So I think that the Patriots could get this win.
So I'm going to say win as well, which would put me at 3-4 so far, which is a little surprising. It will get worse. Sorry. But I'm actually really excited to see what kind of crowd this is. Jacksonville and New England both have a ton of fans on the other side of the pond. So I think it'll be really interesting to see, how that whole thing plays out. But
Yeah.
I do think the Patriots, the Jags, I think the Jaguars had a bad year last year, and I think they'll rebound. I just am curious to see how that whole matchup is. On balance, the Patriots have played up against the Jags pretty well. I know it's different coaching staff, but pretty well the last, 2 decades or so.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel confident in that game, and I think there'll be more Patriots fans really than the Jags fans, but it'll be curious to see how that finds out. And Trevor Lawrence is next up. Speaking of quarterbacks getting paid, he'll be here shortly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too, because I think the 2021 quarterback class was not great. So it'll be interesting if he's the only one who gets an extension.
It's humbling. As for someone like myself who loves the draft, it was a very humbling experience because you're really looking at one out of the top 4 or 5 guys. I mean, that really panned out. And for someone, I'm not Mel Kiper, I'm not Todd McShay. I don't, I'm not saying that, but I pay attention to it quite a bit, and just surprising how much that backfired. But it shows you how much of a dart throw it really is. It's pretty crazy.
It kind of goes back to what we were saying about Drake May. You never really know, but you got to take a shot, Right. So week 8, they play their second game against the Jets at Gillette. Because I have them splitting the season, I have this as a win. Am I confident in that? No. Is it my optimism? Absolutely. So I'm like, I do not want to concede to the Jets sweeping the Patriots. I can't do it. I just can't. My brain says no, absolutely not. So
I'm with you. I'm with you on that last part, but I'm gonna say loss. I mean, okay. I look at these next 3 games. You're talking about the Jets, the Titans, the Bears. I could see them winning all those games, but the reality is they're not that team. So. I just think the Jets match up with them well right now. And will it last? No, I don't think so. But right now, I have them losing. So I have 3 of 5.
Okay. And then we got the Titans, as you said, at Titans, week 9, which is going to be a very interesting game because they have a whole totally remade offense, a new head coach, really great receivers, an interesting quarterback he's the one that likes mayo in his coffee, correct? Yeah, that's what he's gonna be known for. Didn't he get a lifetime supply of mayo or something like that?
Yeah,
from Mahomes got Heinz ketchup.
Yeah.
Crazy. I actually don't remember if I said this was a win or a loss. But I think I said win, probably because I said 11 wins.
I'm gonna say win. I'm gonna say win here because Tennessee, to me, their defense still has a lot of question marks. I like Will Levis. He was a little up and down last year. Decent receivers, decent offensive line, first-time head coach. I don't know. I think the Patriots are still going to be a bottom quarter of the league team just because they're going to be building. But I still think they beat teams like this who are, in my mind, below them. So yeah, I have them taking the win here.
Then they go on the road again to the Bears. I have it as a loss simply because of how good of a draft the Bears had, and the way that they've just built their roster. I mean, it's incredible what Caleb Williams is walking into. So, since it's on the road, I have it as a loss.
Yeah, so I mean, the Bears and the Falcons will be really interesting case studies just because of how they built their teams. I think the Falcons roster is far along than the Bears, but they both put a lot of weapons around them and then dropped a quarterback in last. For the Falcons, it was free agency with Kirk Cousins, and for Caleb Williams and the Falcons, it was the first round pick they put into it. I think that will be really, really fascinating to see how that whole thing works out. But I do think it will be a loss. I think that JJ McCarthy and Caleb Williams have the 2 best rosters around them to be successful early on. We'll see where that goes, but I do think that the Bears probably get this one. If I'm being honest, and I give if they lost to the Titans, maybe they could beat the Bears. And I know it's not transitive property necessarily, but I don't expect them to win all these games. So I'm going to say a loss with you. I agree.
Then we have week 11 versus the Rams. I have it as a win.
The Rams are interesting, right? Like, I feel like they're kind of like almost not really discussed. Like,
yes.
I mean, the biggest news for the Rams this offseason was the fact that they actually had a first-round draft pick and that Aaron Donald retired. Like, there's really not a whole lot going on. But, like, what's Matthew Stafford's status? Like, I don't know. And there's been a lot of moving parts on that offense that have kind of gone under the rug. I'm going to say a win as well. I think that they absolutely are a team. I would say they're probably one of the hardest to predict teams as of mid-May right now. Like, what are they going to be? It's really, really hard to say. But right now, I just don't see them. I see them being competitive because I like their coaching staff, and I think Sean McVay is a good coach. But like, I don't really know what they're going to be.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe that's going to play to their benefit, but it's still super early in the off season, so there's still time to see kind of like what they're up to. Then we got week 12 at the Dolphins. I think we can both say this is an L. Miami is cursed. You know, no one is above Miami's curse. It is what it is.
You know, the only time I've ever been to Miami was Antonio Brown's first and only game with the Patriots.
Man, I didn't have any way to watch that game, so I found a stream and like set it up in my living room, like had my laptop on a book, like on the table. Like, I wanted to watch that game so bad because it was like unreal that was real. And then it lasted one game.
It was I think it was 8 days. It was such a bizarre period of time. But yeah, no, I was there in the stands for that game. You and I both have spent a lot of time in Arizona. The hottest sun I've ever experienced was that pregame in Miami. It was brutal. Like, it was so strong. The UV rays were outrageous.
And it's on the visitor side, right? Like, that's where the roof is not covering mostly.
So that's the way. Yeah, it's Hard Rock Stadium. That's the way they design it, so that the visitor sideline is in the sun, and it's about 20 degrees warmer than the home side, and it is real. It is crazy. But yeah.
Then the week 13 versus the Colts. I have it as a win. Did I have it as a win?
Super confident there.
I know. I'm like, I can't remember because I did it like when the schedule came out. So I'm like, I think I had it as a win, even though, you know, Anthony Richardson is expected to be back. They re-signed Michael Pittman. Like, they have some good pieces, but Richardson is coming off of a season-ending injury. And it's the Colts. The Patriots have historically been really good against the Colts, no matter who is there. And I just feel a little bit more confident in this game no matter what. Like, I think the Patriots defense is definitely going to continue doing what they did last year, and I think they could definitely wreak some havoc on the Colts offense.
So I also have this as a win. I do think overall that they are a better team. Anthony Richardson will be the determining factor in whether this is their correct pick or not, because if he kind of transforms and develops into the player that a lot of people think he's going to be, then it probably won't happen. But if he is still kind of working out some kinks because he did have his rookie season cut short because of injury, then maybe we're having a different conversation.
Then you were just talking about Arizona. That is when week 15 after their bye, they will play the Cardinals. I have it as a dub.
I do too. I have this as a win as well. Probably the last one of the season, which is what I'll predict here in a second. But I do think that Jonathan Gannon did a really good job of kind of coaching the team. You could see them playing really hard for him. The defense was really working, towards some things. We'll see what the offense looks like. Kyler Murray was obviously hurt a lot last year, so we'll see how that whole thing goes. But I think on balance, the Patriots are still probably better than the Cardinals. I'm sure some would disagree, but I just think that they're both in similar places. So it'll be curious to see at this point of the season. Obviously, we're talking about week 15, like where they are in their trajectory. So like, are the Cardinals playing for a playoff spot, or the Patriots? Probably not, neither. But I think that those kind of things could matter.
And historically, they start the season really well and end the season really bad. So that always works to play them late.
Absolutely.
I think we agree without even much explanation. Week 16 at Buffalo, that's a loss.
It's so weird. I agree with you. I won't even spend much time talking about the actual game itself, but it's so weird seeing the Bills playing them twice at the end of the year. I think
Yeah.
that's so weird the way they put things together. Like, the Patriots playing in in Wembley, in London, not having a bye week afterwards, not having a bye week till 6-7 weeks later, and then all of a sudden playing the Bills twice at the end of the year. Really, really bizarre. Defensively, the Bills are going through a huge change. I think that Sean McDermott is absolutely on the hot seat for the season. I think that he's in a whole lot of trouble if they don't do really well. You go ahead and you change both your safeties. You lose your top cornerback. I understand age, injuries are a factor, of course. Matt Milano's coming back, but you have a lot of change
Diggs
on the.
also.
What's up?
Traded Stephon Diggs also.
Yeah. So you change a lot of people in the back end. Offensively, you lose Gabe Davis to the Jaguars. Stephon Diggs, you trade to the Texans. What's that going to look like? I think they're having a little bit of a reset year, but I really do think that if they do not probably get past the divisional round, I think McDermott's gone.
Yeah.
And I have a scary feeling that Bill Belichick would be on that phone call for right after that one.
Oh, jeez. Oh, I don't even want to think about that. Oh, yeah, okay. Week 17 versus the Chargers. I believe you said that this will be a loss. I have it as a win.
I think the Patriots have traditionally done really well against the Chargers.
Yes.
It feels
and they have a lot less pieces on that offense than they had in the past when the Patriots played really well against them. So I think that will be a big plus for them.
We'll see where the teams are. But I think part of it for me is that the Chargers are probably still pointing up towards the playoffs, and I'm not sure the Patriots will be in that position. So I could see one team maybe playing a little harder than the others,
Yeah.
And so maybe that's a little unfair, but that's kind of how I see it going.
Well, I mean, it's week 17. I think it's fair to say that.
Right.
And then they end the season against the Bills, and sticking to my optimistic brain that will not allow the Patriots to be swept by anybody in their division, I have them winning at home against Buffalo.
So I have them losing. I have a hard time believing that they can outgun Josh Allen, even if the receiver room is taking a step back from them. I will be fascinated too, let me take a step back. Part of me feels like Drake May probably steps in for these last 6 to 8 games, I'll call it. And if that's the case, you're playing the team who is a pretty good team in the Bills that you're playing 2 out of 3 weeks. They probably are going to pick up on some tendencies, So if I'm being fair and I take a step back, I can see it happening that way. I'm going to call it a loss.
Okay, so I think I was 11-6, and I think you are 7-9. So let's just look for somewhere between there. That would be fine. Yeah. As long as it's not below 4, I'm good. As long as they look a little bit better. And that's the thing too. As we said, we have to be patient, but as long as they look like they're getting better and they're moving forward, then I feel like you can take the season as a win.
1,000%. And I think people need to realize this, and I don't mean to lecture anybody. Everyone can feel the way they want to feel, okay? But what I would tell you is that you really just want to see the young players progressing. Let's see Marcus Jones get back on the field and stay healthy for the season. Let's see Christian Gonzalez come back healthy and pick up where he left off. Let's see Pop Douglas build on season 2. Let's see Jalen Polk and Javon Baker go ahead and make some plays as rookies. Even if Drake May doesn't start right away, if he comes in and he maybe throws a pick or 2, okay, that's fine. Is he throwing? How does he look like throwing the ball? I want to see some of these things. Can Caden Wallace get into the lineup? What does the defense look like under Gerard Mayo? I think that there are a lot of things that people can be excited about, even if it doesn't necessarily translate to wins. I do think that they're on the precipice of coming for that, back to the division contention, back to the playoffs. I just think they're still a year or 2 away, and they're building, but I think they're making the right moves.
I agree. I could not have said it any better myself.